Okay, gonna have to do at least a little fast forwarding here just to keep it under half an hour long. Well, it's certainly the largest store we're gonna find in the game, with the largest selection of things to buy on the various floors, despite the fact that, we've got plenty of money in our wallet, though. I'm not all that keen on going on a spending spree here. It'd probably be different if Pokemon was the kind of role-player game that gave you weapons and equipment to give your various party members to improve their combat ability, or if we had more means to gain money in this game. The TM selection might be good, but they don't tell you in the store what each TM grants you. I had to check online for that information later. Sorry, but I'm probably gonna sell this counter. Partly because the joke that came with it was pretty low effort. Don't worry, we'll get to trading in this game soon enough. If you collect Gravelers, then it shouldn't be a surprise when one of them turns into a golem after a trade. Apparently red and blue don't like talking about yellow up here. The dad that the player never gets to meet. Ugh. Indeed, it would be very awkward to play a role-player game inside of another role-player. I don't think any fighting games really took off from the NES. That was more of a Sega Genesis and arcade machine thing, if I remember correctly. Are you getting anything specific? I'm sure an Eevee plushie would go over quite well. Sorry, pal, but we don't need to know how to more easily run away from wild Pokemon. I'd prefer some way to keep them from running away from us. Well, at least that was enough fast-forwarding to get the clip under half an hour. That was a bit annoying, and I think I will do a bit more fast-forwarding here, though. Okay, so we can give them various vitamins here. You know, anywhere other than Pokemon, people tend to frown on ability enhancers of any kind, but then again, not only are Pokemon abilities rather fantastical in the first place, the names of those enhancers are just regular vitamins, so it's hard to be, too against some of these things. Well, considering the ages some people become trainers, I'm not surprised that the occasional one is amazingly immature. Of course, based on the images of bug trainers and the occasional person who's clearly younger than the player character who supposedly recently got their first Pokemon, apparently a good number of people really start early. Now, I would ask how that's supposed to work in terms of legality, but then I can't think of any part of the franchise that went that deep on world building for the government in this world. That's right, you get a different TM for each individual drink you give her. You can only get that TM once though, so no trying to give her a lot of water for a lot of ice beams. Especially annoying, since Ice Beam is literally the only thing the Ice type has going for them, especially in this generation. Again, really wish that the TMs in the first generation were multi-use like they're going to be all the way in Generation 5. Hell, I'm outright shocked that it took that damn long for the game designers to make that decision. Really? Her line doesn't change even when there's no other drinks we can get her? Oh, that's certainly lazy. That said, may as well grab some water to give to the Saffron Gate Guard so they'll let us through. If I remember right, there's 4 different gates for that city. I suppose I could use the TMs now, but I think I'll wait a little longer since it's not like we're in any big hurry to get even better with this team. Maybe I'm just being complacent. It's not like we've run into anything especially challenging outside of Stadium after all. Huh. Could've sworn that thing always spewed out at least a little poison. It's not something that, at a glance, seems like it's a great idea to cuddle with. But hey, if the kid loves his little gas bag, then who am I to complain? Toxins you can grow resistances to. But there's no getting around how difficult it is to cuddle with what amounts to a porcupine that has flames instead of needles. It also has advantages over trying to cuddle with a ghost, which more often than not is completely incorporeal. So that's 2 types that I like that I wouldn't be able to hug, even if Pokemon actually existed in this world. Some of the fire types, for sure, and ghosts in general. I can't even say that's a shame because it's all hypothetical in the world I live in, unfortunately. Well, apparently that's not a very well-kept secret. You're taking a break in this cafe, while still wearing your uniforms and letting people just walk in expecting some business? Maybe it's more of a culture thing since I'm way too used to American restaurants and cafes. While individual members of a given place might take some breaks on occasion, if the place isn't closed and the person has their uniform on while behind a counter, then they're on the clock. Well, here's something that I'm very unlikely to use all that often. Seriously, unless the gambling involves something like poker, then I'm very unlikely to do any at all because I wouldn't find it fun. Even simulated gambling that can be gamed in an old video game like this. I'm not your chief, but interesting to know that business is going so good for you guys at the moment. Maybe that's why the local police don't do anything about Team Rocket openly operating from this city. They just make up way too much of the economy. As far as criminal enterprises go, the whole gambling thing and giving whatever prizes the customer wants so long as they earn enough tokens, that's actually pretty legitimate. Hell, it's a lot less scummy than things like loot boxes and various microtransactions in games these days. But, I don't think anybody could have ever imagined things would get this scummy these days anyway. Well, she possibly brought him because she either can't trust you to keep it in your pants or can't trust her parents to keep him from being in any sort of trouble. Also, can't help chuckling at how basic the hotel here is. Really? One room with a long counter and a single couch with a bunch of plants scattered all over. I know the graphics mean they can't get into detail, but would it really kill them to at least have a single visible bed in the hotel? I'm pretty sure there was a bed in our home before we left Pallet Town, so I'm pretty sure that the asset does exist in this game, so why not put at least one bed in the building that's supposed to be a regular hotel? Oh dear, now I remember the time when someone once told me that Vegas was the Disney World for adults. As a kid, I went to Disney World twice. The first time was kind of fun since I was under 12 at the time, but the second time, I was old enough to actually start paying attention to the price range and was asking myself, what did being there actually give me other than guilt for making my family take the time and spend the money to go to a place with a whole lot of flash and not a lot of substance? Suffice to say, I didn't ask to go there a third time. And Vegas felt even more empty to me, especially when I couldn't even find a single bathroom without a slot machine. At least Disney World can give you a break every once in a while. As a side note, I'm pretty sure there are plenty of YouTubers who can easily break the gambling system around here and take the rockets for all they're worth. Funnily enough, I think the Abra was the better prize in the first window there, though the next window with Dratini, Scyther, and Porygon actually feel pretty tempting to me to try to go for, even if I don't like even simulated gambling like this. Especially since I don't think I've ever legitimately captured any of those Pokemon in this generation. Though the window with the TMs is a bit annoying because, of course, they don't actually tell you what each TM move does unless you own it and are trying to teach a Pokemon that particular move. If these people want these coins to earn their own prizes, why are they so willing to give it to the random kid who walked up to them? Indeed, and it's odd to hear a game that hooks people mentioning that it's scary to get hooked by something. And being told we have better things to do in one of this game's only minigames areas also feels a bit odd. Well, if you're having fun, then who am I to complain about how you're having fun in a criminally run gambling casino? What a surprise! A place with Rocket in its name is run by Team Rocket. You know, most people wouldn't be inclined to interact with a poster on a wall if you don't have someone explicitly guarding it. But I suppose we need Team Rocket to be this incompetent in order to make it more believable that the player character, who's supposed to be a kid, would figure out how to actually get into the base underneath the casino. Not the most intimidating gate guard I've ever seen, but then that's probably because there's little difference between facing a rocket front and some random trainer on the road. It's just a matter of what the trainer sprite looks like. Yeah. Kind of hard for it to feel especially awesome that we're storming into the Rocket hideout. We're not doing it to rescue anyone or because they did something that somehow made it personal. We literally just show up in town and go, it'd be a fun to mess with this Pokemon Mafia that happens to be here. At least that feels like what the overall story justification is. The meta justification is that the Rockets have an item we need to make progress in another dungeon, which we need to get through in order to get an item to open up a road or two. Excuse me for thinking that they should have done more to make us emotionally invested in hitting the bad guys in this game. May as well let Neo take this one down. Takanabari has already managed to give himself the top score of 52. Again, considering the number of people we've beaten this far into the game, you'd think that word would get around about this especially talented kid. Indeed, and I really wish there was more of an in-character reason for us to break into this particular operation. I'd even accept something random like maybe Jack has a big thing against gambling, or maybe he saw one of the Pokemon that's been put aside as a prize that used to belong to someone he knows. Is it really too much to ask that there be some measure of explanation for why our hero storms into a building full of criminals, other than just, this is how you advance in the game? Welcome to level 29, Taki. You've gotten 54 trainer-owned Pokemon so far. Very impressive. I'm sorry, but isn't it usually the good guy who says you won't get away with this? It just doesn't feel right when it's the bad guys who are getting harassed that say that. Though again, Team Rocket doesn't seem to have done anything especially terrible around here. Just some generalized bits of bullshittery that puts them at about the same level as a bunch of legitimate companies I've seen over the years. Granted, I wouldn't mind taking down some of those companies, or at least down a few pegs, but still, that's more due to frustration in the real world with real entities that have done some scummy crap over and over and over again for years, if not decades. Team Rocket just doesn't have that kind of time frame to work with in this game. Sure, I'm taking a long time to go through this LP, but I doubt it's gonna take outright decades unless I give in to temptation and take multiple breaks in order to LP other games along the way of the various Pokemon games. On one hand, I get why the average trainers tend to have lower-level Pokemon when they don't have more team members, and they've already got a decent amount more difficult to deal with than the various battles against the wild Pokemon. But someone had to sit down and think about what Pokemon and at what levels each trainer the player can possibly face would have in each area. Personally, I wouldn't mind some more surprise challenges along the road to the major hurdles in our path. Wonder if I'll feel the same way when I finally get around to doing something like Final Fantasy or some other role-player game, or if it's something about how the Pokemon world was built that makes me that kind of hungry for more challenges, even from otherwise forgettable foes. Again, our main character is in no danger at any point of being killed, and as far as the overall narrative is concerned, we don't seem to have killed any of the Pokemon we've faced in battle, wild or otherwise. And while there are plenty of forgettable enemies in a lot of other role-player games, the stakes in battle being higher makes it feel more excusable that so many of our foes end up being forgettable trash. Whereas a vast majority of our foes in this game barely manage to put up a fight, with the notable exceptions of the gym leaders, that one Rocket with Eradicate back in Mount Moon, and the two guys with Geodudes that decided to blow up in the Dark Caves. Oh, and Gary, of course. Didn't mean to forget about him for a moment there. Oh, I'm pretty sure we can, but I somehow doubt we're going to get to him within this clip. Partly because these bloody tiles are rather time-consuming in their own way. We move rather slowly once we start spinning after stepping on one of those things. More slowly than a standard walking at any rate, and the only way you can stop moving is if you manage to hit one of the stop tiles after the movement tiles get you going. It's another of those things that I can completely accept from a video game standpoint, but it itches at me from a world-building standpoint. That should do it for all the items in here. Time to work our way out of here and move to the next floor. Huh. Made fewer mistakes than I was expecting down there. I should probably try to have more faith in myself. Yeah. That Rattata is just another meal from Marbleback right now. Seems that the Rockets have a bit of a standardized team going here. I suppose that makes sense. Stronger, more rare Pokemon probably don't get to stay with the various fronts and middle-ranked Rockets that might have actually stolen them. Either the higher-ranked members get them despite the lower guys doing all the hard work, or they just sell them off. Of course, that's just a guess on how things are run here. It's not like we explicitly hear about that happening. Sorry, Marbleback, but that's a move I'm not gonna let you take up a slot for. Of course, now I can't help wondering just how different a Pokemon game would feel if the Pokemon in it could have more than 4 moves in their repertoire at a given time. Well, at least we're high enough leveled that a critical hit is still not something that leaves us in yellow or red condition. Ah, there we go. Should probably get the Pokemon Center soon anyway, if only because it would be a good stopping point for this recording session. Anyway, that one put Garm's score at 10, and the overall score for the team at 316. I had to make a joke referencing Stone Cold Steve Austin, especially since he was pretty relevant at the time I first played this game back in the late 90s, but that grunt didn't have anything going for him, and we beat him with a flame puppy, not anything that could connect to Austin from back then. It would have been different if we won using something ice or snake themed. Come to think of it, has the series ever had an ice type serpent of some kind? We've got a rock and a sea serpent, and of course the standard poisonous ones, but as far as I'm aware, there are no ice serpents in the series. Yeah, Phyllis is probably going to be able to sweep this team even if he's not going to get any super effective shots in. Welcome to level 29, Phyllis, and that brings you just 1 point above Nim's score. Doesn't really mean as much to get beyond a rival on the team in terms of wins when said rival is retired, but it's still a nice benchmark in and of itself. And that should do it for the battles in this clip. Just going to speed our way back to the Pokemon Center for a breather and saving. I know technically speaking that we could save absolutely anywhere, but since we're connected to Pokemon Stadium for this playthrough, I figured I'd give myself that as one of the many minor limits, even when it makes some recording sessions feel a bit more bloated. Anyway, since we can't use the elevator at all without a key, may as well just take the stairs since we don't have to worry about random encounters around here.